supports all relevant cargo codes. So it is intended to simplify ship reporting procedures. To the extended ship static and voyage-related data, we added new information items that we found relevant, for example, more detailed ship types, bunker roll, IAS class, unambiguous port coding using low code, etc. And the benefits from that are enhanced traffic information and also less reliance on external databases. Then we have three totally new messages. The area notice message, which is my favorite one. Rolf will tell you more about that in a minute. And with the route information message, you can send waypoints to communicate, for example, a recommended route. And both the area and route messages are intended in the future to be displayed on an active screen. Then finally, we have a text description message with which you can attach it to other messages to give added information. So these messages were proposed to IMO AIS20100325 last year for international adoption and also submitted to IMO's correspondence group on the same matter. Before I give the word to Rolf, a few words about our AIS Plus software development. Because obviously the current bridge equipment does not support these new messages, we wanted to boost the development, and therefore we are now making a new open source software for sending and receiving the application-specific messages. And it will be installed on any PC computer, which will be connected to AIS via the pilot plug. You can learn more about this project at aisplus.vtt.fi. Thank you, and now to Rolf.
Good morning to you all. Marcus has described the more practical part of this development, but there is also this formal and regulatory part. And that part started with a proposal from Sweden to MSC 82 to put the issue of application-specific messages on the agenda of NAV. The reason for this request was that the trial period mentioned in the SN Circular 236 had ended, and it was time to go on. MSC considered this and put this item on the agenda for NAV, and it was discussed at NAV 54, who decided to set up an intersessional correspondence group for development of this issue. And I was appointed to coordinate the group. Based on the terms of reference for this group, the work was divided into 7 subtasks, and I will tell you a little bit about the results. First task was to develop the criteria for selection of international application-specific messages as a basis for the further work. One important thing is that the last line here you can see that these messages reduce the workload on board. Another subtask was to consider the technical limitations to avoiding disturbance of AIS main function due to overloading. The correspondence group agreed that the ship-shore communication will normally be affected first, while the relatively short-range ship-to-ship anti-collision function is more robust for high load on the VDL. So a possible overloading of the VDL can be detected by studying the effective throughput within the anticipated coverage area of a shore station and compare that to required throughput. Another task was to consider display issues. The correspondence group found it premature to propose specific presentation and display standards for application-specific messages. More experience is needed, and considering the ongoing developments of presentation for e-navigation, the group just gave some examples and guiding principles, as you can see here. There was also a task to to evaluate the need for additional communication. The need for communication is evaluated in the work for e-navigation, and these results are not ready yet, but the correspondence group found it obvious that the communication capacity, or AIS, is not enough for the future needs. But ASMs offer an early and already available limited communication method that can be used for an early introduction of e-navigation. It can also be used as a common channel for channel management for other communication systems. Finally, there was the main task of selection, design of messages. We had input from the old SM236 and from the different inputs to the correspondence group. In total, about 40 messages were evaluated. And some were accepted of the old messages. Some of the old messages were merged with new proposals, as described here. Some messages were rejected because they didn't meet the criteria that we set up in the beginning of the work. And other messages were very similar, so they were combined into new messages. The work of the correspondence group was reported to NAV55 in July 2009. And NAV55 decided to set up a working group to develop a new SN circular based on the report from the correspondence group. The working group confirmed the results of the correspondence group and proposed the same list of messages that had been developed by the correspondence group. The new messages are listed here, but I will not go into any details, just mention one example, and that is the area notice. The area notice gives a possibility to define areas to its position, shape and size, and to that area link a special message, a predefined message from a table, of which you can see examples here. Additionally to that, you can add an optional free text that is transmitted in a separate message. So with this combination of information, it can be used for many different purposes. The working group delivered a draft SN circular to the NAV plenary. The group was allowed to, by correspondence with the Secretariat, add some clarifications, and finally the draft was added to the report from NAV55, and it's now on its way to MSC in May, and I hope for a final approval at MSC 87. Looking back, one of the starting points for the Baltic AIS project was the increased workload caused to navigators by inconsistent and frequent reporting requirements set by national VTSs and reporting systems. We do believe that new messages can contribute to a standardization of the reporting and facilitate an automatic reporting by AIS application-specific messages, and those reduce the workload on board. The need for improved user interfaces have been clear during this project. The present mandatory equipment does not support presentation of ASMs, and this must be taken care of. For position-related information, may ACTIS be the appropriate presentation system, but for non-position-related information, a bridge computer with dedicated software, as Marcus mentioned, may be the best way. And that could also give an early implementation without waiting for new standards to be developed and implemented. Finally, the messages proposed in this draft SN circular are based on verified user needs, and by meeting those needs, we have the messages a potential to improve maritime safety and the preparedness of authorities in case of accident and the protection of the environment. And the use of application-specific messages is fully in line with the concept of e-navigation and may allow for an early implementation of some e-navigation services. Thank you. Questions should come later, but if you have any, you're welcome to contact Marcus or me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus, and thank you all for this clear presentation. I'm happy that speakers are just within their time slots until now. The next speaker is Captain John Leon Erwik. He's head of the Pilotage and VTS Department of the Norwegian Coastal Administration. He's member of the VTS and the INEF committee. John, please.
Thank you. I have got a message this morning. The coffee break is cancelled